Okay. Well, thank you everyone for being here today. My name is Alice and I am a graduate student assistant in career services. And so my job is basically like looking over resumes, talking to students about their internship search process. And I mostly work with master's students, but sometimes I also see PhD students and undergraduate students. But this session is to allow first year students to get to hear the perspectives of second year master's students who have already completed their internship and to learn more about what the process was for getting that internship and then also what it was like during the internship. So we will just go ahead and start with if the panelists could introduce themselves, just maybe say like your name, where you worked, and then you could say like a fun fact about you or something. And anyone can start. Or I can call on someone.
I can
Oh.
go ahead and start it off, yeah. So my name is Ashley. I worked for Microsoft this past summer, and a fun fact about myself is that I like soccer.
Thank you.
Okay, my name. Yeah, you can.
Yeah. Hi, my name is Ratan. I'm currently a second year master's student and I've completed my internship with Amazon as an applied scientist. Yeah, and a fun fact about me. So I play a lot of sports like badminton, table tennis, a lot of them. Yeah.
Nice, thank you.
Okay, my name is Sairaj and I'm doing my master's in computer science. I'm in my second year. I did my internship at NetApp during the summer and I'm continuing doing co-op with them right now. And one fun fact about my internship search I would like to say is like one quote which helped me is you miss 100% of the chances you don't take. That particular line got me an interview. So yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. So now we can go ahead and start with the questions. So we already had some questions that we came up with that we thought were helpful for people to hear. So I will just ask them and then whoever wants to answer can. You don't all have to answer each one if you don't want to, but if you think that like you have something that's really helpful, I definitely encourage you to answer as many questions as possible. Okay, so for the first question, when did you start submitting applications? And do you wish you had started earlier or later? If so, why?
So I double checked right before this meeting on kind of my timeline. At least for Microsoft, I got the first round invitation on September 2nd. So I believe I started submitting like in the beginning of August. And I think that was a pretty good timeline for me because it gave me enough time to like actually refine my resume enough and not be rushed. I do know that some of my intern friends this past summer had applied later though, and were still able to get internships without any issue.
Thank you, Ashley.
Yeah, and coming to my internship search, I started off late. So I started around November. I started applying around November, December. I would say that is very late for applying. I would suggest like to apply like Ashley, say from August or September. So I started applying in November, December. I did not get calls from most of the companies. I started getting calls say from March or April. By that time most of the students have already got an internship and I have got an offer like in the May. So I would say like applying early would make the chances better of getting an interview call.
Thank you, Ratan.
Yeah, I kind of agree to like what Ratan said. I also started applying a bit late in October, and I wish I could have started earlier. So most of the interviews that I got were in the late February, March area, and so I think it's better if you can start earlier as possible.
Thank you, Saraj. Okay, so for the next question, when did you receive your first interview invitation? And did you feel prepared at that time?
I received my first interview around December timeline. It was from Zendesk. I was not completely prepared for it. Like the coding test, I think I was quite familiar with it, but during the interview process, I felt that I could have been prepared a bit more. So yeah, but I learned from it, and like the next career fair and the next interviews were more like I got the experience and I was able to do better. So yeah.
I got my first interview call, say around March, and I would say I was kind of well prepared because it was already one semester into masters, and I've heard from a lot of people who have already given a lot of intern interviews. So I would say I was quite prepared during the month of March or say April. Yeah.
So my first interviews were around like beginning of September, and I didn't feel as prepared for the coding part like they said, but I found at least for some of the first round interviews, it was mostly behavioral. So kind of once I started getting interviews, that's when I started like prepping for like the coding portions, but definitely if I could have taken more time to prepare for those, I definitely would have.
Yeah, so it sounds like we have a lot of variety in when people got their interviews, but I'm definitely hearing for students that it was helpful, or if they could have, the panelists would have probably started practicing the coding part earlier. Okay, so for the next question, how did you balance internship searching with schoolwork or your personal life?
For me, like searching internship was very integral. So I would like set up some dedicated time every day, like around half an hour or 1 hour, where I would like to search for internships on different platforms like on LinkedIn or through different career websites. So I had kept a dedicated time every day to like search for internships. So that was my way to go.
Yeah, I'd say about the same because definitely like spacing it out too in like 30-minute chunks. Like he said, it's very nice and not kind of getting overwhelmed and spending a whole day on it. So definitely planning a little bit of time is helpful.
Yeah, even I would spend like say 30 minutes to 1 hour every day and like apply for as many jobs as possible. Like I would say the having alerts on LinkedIn or any other career websites would be very beneficial because the earlier you apply, the more chances for you to get a call when the job is posted. So yeah, that's what I have done.
Yeah, I'm definitely hearing that those short increments of internship searching were helpful and setting aside like dedicated time for it. Mhm. So where did you land an internship? And well, I guess you guys already said this when you were introducing yourselves, but have you accepted a full-time offer yet?
So I received an offer from both Microsoft and then I work year round at SAS, a local analytical company here. So Microsoft didn't give us the biggest of timeframes to accept our full-time offer. It was about only 6 weeks from when they gave it to us. So I have accepted the Microsoft offer, but I also have an offer from SAS as well that's expiring in mid-November that I have time to kind of think about which one I want more.
I have not received my full-time offer yet. So when I completed my internship at NetApp around August, so they told me that they would take the decision around October month, and they offered me a co-op extension. So I took that opportunity, and I'm currently doing co-op with them, and I have to yet to discuss about the full-time opportunities there.
I got a full-time written offer from Amazon, and like initially I was given January as my start date, but I've like extended that for June 2023. So I'll be joining full-time at Amazon in the month of June 2020.
Nice. Congratulations, you guys, on all of your accomplishments. For the next question, what was the process of applying for internships like, and what was most surprising about it? So you already talked a little bit about like how you did it, but this is more like how did it feel like? Like, was it overwhelming, or was it very peaceful for you? And what was surprising about it?
So I would say the surprising part is that getting an interview call is like way tougher than the interview that you have. Like especially for me, it was that case because I started applying in November and I got an interview call say in March or April, and I've got a lot of calls in May, like say 2 3 companies in May. So I would say getting an interview call is way tougher than cracking the interview.
Yeah, I agree to certain sites. So I almost applied to around 200 to 50 companies, and the number of callbacks I got were around 10 to 15. So the ratio was very surprising to me. But yeah, I was so that would be a surprising part. And I'll also say that LinkedIn messaging to HRs also helped. So that would I would say like that was a different factor.
Yeah, for the actual like process of applying for internships, I found it was a lot of repetition. So a lot of like typing in the same stuff over and over again. And that can get very annoying. And then like they said, I also applied to a lot of places and didn't get many replies. So kind of the surprising part was once you got an interview, like it was very nice and like really fulfilling to actually get a response from there.
Yeah, so it sounds like kind of the highlight of the process was actually getting the interview, which most people would kind of think of as the stressful part, but it sounds like applying was actually the more stressful or tedious part. So for the next question, how many places did you apply to?
So as I've mentioned, I started applying in November. So and my profile is kind of diverse. So I applied for a lot of data scientists, machine learning, data analyst, software engineering. So I've maintained different resumes. So I've kind of applied for a lot of jobs. So it might be more than 500 or 1,000. I did not even keep track of them, but I did get like online assessments for say 30 to 40 of them, like 20 to 30, but that never converted into interviews, although I have performed well in the coding assessments. So it would be like few companies just give you coding assessment when you just apply for the company. So I would say I've applied for say 500 to 1,000, and I've got say interview calls for say 5 to 6 companies.
Yeah, I agree that it's definitely like in the hundreds. I think at like the height of applying, because it's easy to kind of go down the websites and apply to so many. So I think it was like about 10 to 20 a day, and then kind of adding that up over a month really starts adding up those applications.
Okay, so it sounds like 500 to 1,000 and then 10 to like 20 a day. So yeah, definitely a lot. Because I've had a lot of students asking like how many should I apply to? What's the response rate like? So I think this is really helpful for them to hear that they're probably going to have to apply to a lot of internships and they probably won't hear from many of them. So I think that's good for contextualizing. The next question is, okay, so what were the interviews like? And did you have lots of interviews or just a few? I know you guys kind of talked about that already.
So since I kind of like applied earlier, I didn't really go through many interviews. Like kind of once I got my internship offer, I really stopped applying to other places. But mostly from what I saw, like if it was just a first round like phone screen with like an actual recruiter, is mostly just behavioral questions and then going over like your resume and what you've worked on so far. But for the actual like assessments, it was mostly coding, mostly stuff you find on like Leak Code, or you can kind of look it up online. But for like the further rounds, it was definitely a mix of like behavioral and then doing some coding and then talking about like a typical day-to-day life. So I'd say it really depends on the company. It depends on like which round of interview it is as well.
Yeah, I agree. Like for me also, I didn't have many interviews, like around three, but the first round was mostly with the HR reviewing the behavioral questions and like just going through your resume and just screening you. Then the next round was mostly one or two lead code questions maybe, and then asking the projects you have worked on and technical experience you have. So it was mostly around that. So yeah.
Even I had a similar process. So most of the companies used to have like say one round or two rounds for programming, one round for behavioral. In my case, whenever I used to have an interview for a machine learning role, I used to have a round on the domain, say about machine learning. So yeah, it is mostly programming, a domain round, and a behavioral or managerial round.
So it sounds like there's multiple rounds for the interviews, and some are like coding, some are like behavioral. Okay. You guys kind of talked about the next question, which was how did you prepare for the interviews, but you mostly talked about like the coding preparation. But what about like the behavioral side or the more like personal aspects of it?
So I would say most of the interviews, the first question would be like talk about yourself. I would say like prepare that based on the company. Like have 5 minutes to 10 minutes. Like how do you connect with that company, or have you worked on similar projects and what that company has done? And the for the behavioral rounds, most of the companies like use the star method, and like they want you to have a response in the form of star, and that is situation, task, action, and result. And a few of the companies would like be asking on like their culture values or their leadership principles for Amazon. So it's better we go through them beforehand, and prepare few past experiences with each of their like core values. So I had prior experience before doing my master's, so I could actually come up with a lot of examples for each of their core values. So yeah, I would say for behavioral round, this is a good way for preparation and approaching the behavioral round.
Yes, I agree. Like during the career fairs, also gained some experiences. Like before interviewing or talking with a professional, I used to look up their company website and read about the values of the organization, and then recollect my experiences. So I had industry experience before coming to masters. So I used to like mold them and like write down some notes about what is related to the organizations which I'm going to talk to. So that really helped me.
Yeah, having that like 30-second punchline is really helpful. So like who are you? Like kind of what are your highlights? What are you interested in? Can really help because most of the time that was the first thing they asked me in interviews. And then definitely looking up common questions for the company. Like if you just search your company and then interview questions, they'll have some of those, which are kind of helpful. And then one thing I found helpful to at least know like what type of interview you're going into is sometimes they'll give you like the recruiter ahead of time or who your interviewer is ahead of time, and then kind of looking them up and seeing like what team are they on or if they're in HR can kind of help you know like what you're going into and what you should prepare for.
Thank you. Yeah, so with all of you guys, I heard a lot about researching. So like researching the company, researching common interview questions, and then also more specific things like knowing STAR. So like situation, task, action, result. I think that's really helpful. And then having like kind of an elevator pitch ready just to say like, who are you? And some like short facts about you. Mhm. Um, so what resources did you find helpful when you were trying to identify intern openings?
I think LinkedIn Alerts was a very good resource. Like it would give you a daily reminder of what kind of, like if you could set up like a software engineer and what kind of position and what kind of experience you have, it would provide you an alert. You can set up an alert and it would remind you every day or something like that. So it was really helpful. And also like the career sites like the EPAC, which we have for NCSU, and the career fair. So these were some useful resources I used.
And I would say another approach would be like most of the hiring managers who wants to hire interns, they kind of have a tagline in their LinkedIn profile saying we are hiring interns or say we are hiring. So I think even this is a good way to approach. Just go on to LinkedIn, say hire, like just type hiring and select whichever companies you are interested in. So you get a lot of profiles or you might get a lot of posts, so whenever you come across this, you can message them with your profile and why you're, fit for the role. There are high chances that you get an interview call if you directly message the hiring manager. So I did get that previously. That did happen for me. So I would say that is a very great approach because your resume directly goes to the hiring manager rather than passing it through the ATS, recruiter, and everything.
Yeah, I mostly use LinkedIn, as they said, and then Google, and those job alerts are definitely helpful because whenever I was looking for full-time offers as well, I use those job alerts and it's very easy to like customize them. And I also found for LinkedIn that if you have your profile like open to job opportunities, you'll sometimes get recruiters reach out to you or at least kind of familiarize yourself with the company so in the future you can apply to those jobs.
Yeah, thank you. So I'm hearing that LinkedIn has been very helpful for people. And I liked the tip about searching like hiring manager and then the company. I think that could be really helpful. So the last question, or at least the last question from me, is what advice do you wish that you had received for the internship search process?
I think uh, using referrals can be a big help. I realized that later. So that advice could have helped me more. So reaching out to NC State graduate students who are currently working in companies. So using their referral would be a big help while applying. So yeah, that advice would have been helpful if I would have received it earlier.
Yeah, as I've mentioned earlier, applying as early as possible is a great thing because a lot of big companies are the companies which have a lot of headcount for hiring interns. So those companies generally work on like first come first serve basis, so they hire a lot of engineers and then map them to different teams. So the hiring for most companies like Amazon, Microsoft, everything closes by November or December. Like they do hire after that, but the majority of the headcount is hired before December or say January. So I would say applying as early as possible would like result in an internship.
One helpful thing that I had, at least for Microsoft, is definitely having applicable skills on your resume. So for example, like I had in one of my projects, I wrote like, oh, I uploaded it or used it with Microsoft Azure. And then during my interview, they said like, oh, we noticed you use Azure, like that'll be really helpful so we could onboard you faster. So definitely like making sure your resume is like curated with as many applicable things as you can is really helpful. And then during your interview, like being curious, asking a lot of questions, like wanting to get to know like the team and like what you'd actually be doing is very nice. So definitely just like trying not to stay quiet during the interview really stands out to your recruiters.
Yeah, that's all really helpful. Okay, so that was it for the questions from me, but I believe we have 3 students here. So I want to open the floor up for the students. So if students have any questions that they want to ask the panelists, if you want to unmute yourself, raise your hand, put something in the chat, we can give some time for that now.
Hi, Mansimran here. I do have a question. So I've been, firstly, thank you for the session. It was quite informative and yeah, learning a lot of things. I have been applying for quite some time, but it's just that, I apply and then leave it, but like I'm not getting any responses. So like, is this like a natural process or like, how much wait time is there for them to reply back with either a yes or no, but I'm not getting any response. So how should I go about and if is there some issue, how do I further improve like the resume or the applying process? Like yeah, like just trying to understand where to go from here because I have been applying at a few places.
Yes, I can answer that. Like, there are different timelines for different companies, but some of my companies which I applied to, they did not send me a response even till when I applied in around November, and they sent me a reply in February. So it can differ from company to company, but I would say like most of the companies, if they have to send a request for the next steps, they would send in around a 1 month, 2 weeks to 1 month period. But you can still get an request for interview after 2 months. So just I would like to say like just keep applying. If you feel that your applications are not going well, you can just review your resume with like career services or with your friends or like industry people. So that is what I would suggest. Like keep applying. You might get a call within 1 month or sometimes 2 months. So yeah, that's all.
All right, thank you.
Any other student questions? Or if someone else wants to answer Mansimran's question, feel free.
I'll interject real quick to say that sometimes not being able to get to the first round is sometimes that those automatic resume scanners aren't picking up on something on your resume. And I believe the career services, I used one of their tools that kind of parses your resume and like points out what to fix. And that was really helpful for me to figure out like what they look for. So that might help you get some more first round interviews.
Hey, sorry I joined a bit late, but I wanted to ask that which all websites do you prefer? I mean, which are good for viewing jobs? I mean, like apart from LinkedIn. So I just wanted to ask about the websites.
I think Indeed is also a good option. So whenever you go to Indeed, you can just see the job internship posted, and you can say like, the job posting which are done, which are posted say 1 day ago or 1 week ago. I would say job posting which are like a month or say 2 months ago, like especially for mid-sized companies, there are high chances that you won't get a call back. But for mid-sized companies, in mid-sized companies and everything, 3 days, 1 week you apply, there are high chances that you get a call. And I would say even there are few big companies, say like Nvidia, where they post job openings for each and every team. So they keep on posting the jobs. So like for say Microsoft or Amazon, they have a generic job posting for SD internships. But company
Okay.
like Nvidia posts internship for each and every team. So you have to keep on checking their websites so that you can be the first one to apply. So you like companies like Nvidia, you can just like say for every week or every 2 weeks you can go on their websites and check. And other companies you can track on Indeed or Google or say LinkedIn.
Okay. Thank you.
I just wanted to highlight the tool that Ashley had mentioned. This was said in the chat as well, but that is called Quincia. So first year master's students have access to that, and you can check your resume, practice interviews, and also search for jobs. So it's really helpful. Any other questions? Oh, and Leslie has also put into the chat slides with other job search tips and ways to organize your applications. So that can be helpful for students as well. So we'll just wait a minute or two to make sure no one else has any questions. Or if you guys have any last things you remembered you want to share or bring up. Okay, so it seems like there are no more questions, but as Leslie said in the chat, thank you so much to our panelists. We really appreciate you doing this and providing perspective to our first year students. I'm sure more people will watch this recording because, you know, people like to do things asynchronously. So thank you so much. This was really helpful. And I don't want to like hold anyone, but I'm wondering if you guys would be willing to have students like email you if they have questions, like if you'd be willing to put your email in the chat maybe. Thank you so much. So that concludes our Student Voices panel. Thank you to the students for coming, even though there are only two of you, but I think you guys found it really helpful. And I think other students will also when they watch the recording. And thank you again to our panelists. And also thank you, Leslie and Ashley, the other Ashley, for being here. So feel free to log off. I'll just stick around for a few minutes so like the meeting doesn't close in case people want to collect things from the chat. Thank you.